Finally, the moment we've all been waiting for is confirmed. Superman will be back. But there's a catch to the Man of Steel's return. For today's video, we'll be talking about what Henry Cavill's next Superman movie will mean at the end of the Snyderverse. But how so? Also, news of recasting Lois Lane for Man of Steel 2 would insult Superman fans. All this and more in today's video, so make sure you keep watching. Henry Cavill returning as Superman in a possible Man of Steel 2 would almost certainly rule out Snyderverse Justice League sequels. The Snyderverse will come to an end with Henry Cavill's upcoming Superman movie, which has not yet received an official announcement. Henry Cavill reprised his Superman role in the post-credits scene of Black Adam, 5 years after he last played the Man of Steel in Justice League 2017. Cavill has already hinted that Black Adam's post-credits scene is just the start of his Superman comeback, and that the future of Superman in this new DC universe will be intriguing. Although the DCEU is not being rebooted in the traditional sense, Cavill's Superman comeback seems like a fresh start for the character. Henry Cavill's confirmation that his Superman comeback involves more than just the Black Adam post-credits scene and the actor's departure from Netflix's The Witcher makes it clear that the DC universe has huge plans for the Man of Steel. It goes without saying that there will eventually be a Henry Cavill Superman sequel, albeit it is doubtful that it will stay true to Zack Snyder's original vision for the character. Superman's tale would have continued in Zack Snyder's Justice League sequels rather than in standalone films. With Justice League Parts 2 and 3, neither of which are currently scheduled, the Superman arc that started with Man of Steel would have come to a close. So why would a Man of Steel 2 not work with Zack Snyder's plans for Superman? Superman and the Justice League would have been the focus of a 5-movie storyline in Zack Snyder's first DCEU proposal. The first 3 films in this 5-movie cycle were Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice, and Justice League, and Justice League 2 and Justice League 3 would have come after them. In essence, Snyder's initial vision did not include a Man of Steel sequel. The Man of Steel would have initially been under the influence of Darkseid's anti-life equation, and Superman would have remained the protagonist of the tale. The Snyderverse wouldn't work if Man of Steel 2 was introduced right away. However, a sequel to Man of Steel would give Henry Cavill's Superman a new beginning, even if it wouldn't suit the Snyderverse. It makes sense for Henry Cavill's next Superman movie to have a new beginning for the character, given that there aren't any present plans for a Justice League sequel helmed by Zack Snyder. Because Justice League 2 and 3 were never intended to be released, the Darkseid tease at the end of Zack Snyder's Justice League cannot be fulfilled. The battle against Darkseid and the anti-life equation plot only makes sense in the framework of the Justice League movies. The DC universe will need to create a new grand narrative without the Snyderverse, and Superman should be the first. As a result, the upcoming Superman film can establish the framework for the new DCU. The 5-movie storyline that Zack Snyder originally had in mind for Superman is significantly different from what the DC universe appears to have in mind for Henry Cavill's Superman. Unlike Cavill's Superman return in Black Adam, which signals that a solo Superman movie may come soon, Snyder's Superman plot would have been resolved in the Justice League sequel. Henry Cavill's Superman's return in a potential Man of Steel 2 will inevitably signal the end of the DCEU's Snyderverse because of how reliant on Superman's arc the Justice League story was in the Snyderverse. It is unclear whether the upcoming Superman film will be more like Man of Steel or a soft reboot. But what does Henry Cavill's return to Justice League 2 mean? Without Superman, no Justice League roster is ever complete, and without him, the new Justice League movie would have seemed incomplete. If Henry Cavill had been replaced, the movie would have had to spend a significant amount of time on the new Superman's debut. Thanks to Henry Cavill's return, the DC universe won't be mired in a never-ending introduction phase, and a prospective Justice League sequel may launch right into the action with the Man of Steel from the big screen. Justice League 2 may shed light on Superman's recent off-screen activities, which almost certainly involve significant character growth in between end-of-the-world dangers. The Justice League sequel may raise the stakes for both the Justice League and the other DC Universe heroes as a result of the League's fight's global repercussions. While this is happening, viewers will finally get to see more interactions between Henry Cavill's Superman and other Justice League members, such as Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman and Jason Momoa's Aquaman, who, despite being two of the DCU's most well-known known characters haven't had a lot of opportunities to share the screen. Since Henry Cavill will be returning as Superman, it's only natural that Amy Adams will also return as Lois Lane, right? But fans are on edge at the thought of the actress being booted out of the role. The possibility of a Man of Steel sequel starring Henry Cavill has spurred debates on whether the original cast members should be replaced. However, replacing Amy Adams as Lois Lane after her 3 appearances in the role would be offensive to Superman fans. After 5 years since the release of Justice League, Henry Cavill returned to the DC Extended Universe as Superman. In addition to delivering on Dwayne Johnson's teases of a Superman and Black Adam crossover, Black Adam's post-credits scene also hinted at Superman's exciting new future in this new DC Universe chapter, which does not necessarily require a reboot. It is reasonable to assume that Man of Steel 2 will be more akin to a soft reboot than a genuine Man of Steel 2, given that more than 10 years will have elapsed since Man of Steel by the time a potential Henry Cavill Superman sequel occurs. Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice and Justice League continued Superman's original narrative. Therefore, a prospective Man of Steel 2 would now need to start a whole new story. That explains why so many people believe that a new Superman film will start from fresh, recasting important roles like Lois Lane, among other things. Even still, replacing Amy Adams, one of the best actors of her generation, makes no sense, even if Man of Steel intends to be in some ways a reboot. A new Lois Lane, in the eyes of fans, would undermine continuity and damage the reputation of earlier DCU adventures. As we have all seen from the movies, Amy Adams has proven to us that Lois Lane shouldn't be recast. Although Henry Cavill's debut as Superman in Man of Steel may have divided many, there is no denying how fantastic of a cast Zack Snyder assembled. Henry Cavill is demonstrating his suitability for the role of Superman, and the addition of Amy Adams, Michael Shannon, Lawrence Fishburne, and Russell Crowe made the film even better. Amy Adams' portrayal of Lois Lane was by far the least problematic aspect of any issues viewers may have had with Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, and Snyder's general plan for the Superman story. In fact, despite the movies having 3 very different stories, Amy Adams' portrayal of Lois Lane in Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, and Justice League made the films feel like they were part of the same despite having different styles. Plus, there's also the fact that Amy Adams' portrayal of Lois Lane could be better in Man of Steel 2. Although Henry Cavill's debut as Superman in Man of Steel may have divided many, there is no denying how fantastic of a cast Zack Snyder assembled. Henry Cavill is demonstrating his suitability for the role of Superman, and the addition of Amy Adams, Michael Shannon, Lawrence Fishburne, and Russell Crowe made the film even better. Amy Adams' portrayal of Lois Lane was by far the least problematic aspect of any issues viewers may have had with Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, and Snyder's general plan for the Superman story. In fact, despite the movies having 3 very different stories, Amy Adams' portrayal of Lois Lane in Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, and Justice League made the films feel like they were part of the same despite having different styles. Recasting Lois Lane should not be one of the main course corrections the DC Universe needs to do before a Superman movie starring Henry Cavill is released. The idea of a Superman soft reboot essentially means that Cavill's Superman may start over in this new DC Universe without calling for the prior Man of Steel actors to be recast. Although James Gunn is now the DC movie's primary creative force, this does not necessarily mean that the original DCU will be revived. There is no justification to even consider a Lois Lane recast if the earlier Superman appearances are to be regarded as canon. And that wraps up today's video about Henry Cavill's return to the Justice League and rumors surrounding the recast of Lois Lane. But do you think there are other ways for Henry Cavill to stay and continue with the Snyderverse? Let us know what you think in the comments section below. Thanks for watching today's video, and before you go, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to our channel with the notification bell on for more videos like these. See you next time.